I ran across the street, narrowly dodging a speeding car that zoomed past. I just couldn't believe it. My girlfriend was on the TV! I didn't even know she had something like this going on! I was just walking home from spending all day revising my novel when I heard her familiar voice. I thought for sure she was at work, but when I saw her face on the screens that lined a used TV shop, I stopped in my tracks and bolted towards it. I must have looked like a psycho, my hands and face glued to the glass window, staring intently at how pretty she looked on screen. It looked like she was being interviewed for something. And then, she reached behind her and took out a book. And everything I knew, everything I loved in the world, just died in front of me. Hi, I'm Simon, and this is how I got back on the girl who stole my novel. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always dreamed of being a writer. But my parents wanted me to be a doctor. They said there was no money in writing. Even my friends weren't so optimistic when I told them I was gonna finally go after my dreams after years of being a surgeon. And just a little bit, I think they were right. At the start, at least. I had a hard time writing. Most of the time, I'd just sit in front of my computer staring at a blank screen. Sometimes my brain goes too fast that my fingers can barely keep up. And through it all, I was broke. I had carved a significant chunk of my savings by just focusing on being a writer. I still believed I can do it, though. I believed as soon as I finished my work, I could sell it. And then, it will all be worth it. Unfortunately, I think I'm the only one who believes in my dream. I've dated and lost so many girls who left me as soon as they realized that I was a struggling artist. It was pretty lonely for a while. Until I met Anna. Anna was a breath of fresh air. She was a dreamer just like me, and she was the only one who actually motivated me to go after my dream. She was my taskmaster. Every morning she'd wake me up with a steaming cup of coffee with a sweet, motivational phrase on a sticky note. She would plant a kiss on my forehead and remind me, one day, I'll be the wife of a really famous writer. And so, I worked really hard for her. I would plot out my book during the day, and at nights, when my brain goes online, I would write until my fingers ached. But it was all worth it. It was all for Anna. She was pushing me towards my dreams, so I wanted to make hers come true. She wanted a good, comfortable life, and I swore I was gonna give it to her. Anna was the first to hear about any ideas that brew in my head. She was my critic, my muse, and my editor in one. I would tell her what I planned to do with the story, and she would tell me whether it works or not. The best feeling for me is when I tell her a twist that happens, and her eyes grow wide out of surprise and excitement for what happens next. And after 6 months of never going out of the house and having no real job, I finally did it. I finished the most important thing I have ever done. It felt like my very own baby. And when I handed it to Anna, I had a surge of jumbled feelings. There was a pit in my stomach, but at the same time, I was brimming with joy. But then, I also felt sad because the story was over, and I missed the characters I wrote on the page. And now, I was giving my baby away for it to be judged. Anna loved it. She loved it so much she squealed and jumped around yelling how I was gonna be a millionaire. I never knew that trusting Hannah with my manuscript was the worst thing I could have ever done. As soon as I saw her bring up that book during the interview, I knew what she had done. It was no wonder she'd been coming home very late a lot, and she was off on some meetings all the time. She'd been having publisher meetings, and now she'd succeeded. The book had sold and is in print. Except for the biggest, most glaring difference. Her name was where mine should have been. That scheming, thieving piece of trash sold my work as her own. And beside her on that interview was a man I looked up to my whole life. I idolized Mark ever since I was a kid. And now, he was holding my girlfriend's hands and kissing her on national TV, telling everyone he was my stolen book's editor. I was so mad I punched that glass window and shattered it. So, yeah. Now I'd been swindled out of my life's work, lost my girlfriend to my idol, and had a bill for a shop window I can't afford. On top of all that, I was flat broke. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't even afford a lawyer, so I did the one thing I could. I wrote. I wrote about everything that happened. I took up a day job waiting tables, and I used every bit of time I wasn't waiting tables and devoted it to finishing my new work. It went faster this time, and I had a fire under me that made me do things I thought was impossible. In just 2 months, I finished my first draft, and I immediately went to work, sending copies of it to every publisher in town. I received rejection after rejection after rejection letter. I hit rock bottom. I was out of time, and out of money. While Anna was enjoying her best life, flying from city to city promoting the book she stole and making millions off of it, I was down in the dumps, poor, and feeling like an utter failure. Until one morning, I woke up with determination out of nowhere. I told myself she deserved to be exposed, and so, in a last-ditch effort, I sent my book to Netflix. And let me tell you, I still remember the exact moment I received the email that changed my life. I was at work, holding a tray of drinks on my way to table 42. I glanced at my email, but when I saw it was from Netflix, I rushed to open it. Before I could even read it, a call came, and there was no amount of professionalism in the world that would have made me contain the insane happiness I felt at that very moment. In shock, I dropped the tray and jumped and celebrated as if I just scored the winning goal. They're doing a show about my book! Netflix is doing a show about my book! My manager came over with a sinister look on his face. That's nice, but do you mind not shouting at my restaurant? Keep your personal matters to yourself. You're causing a scene. Clean this mess up right now or you're fired! Well, up yours, Steve! I quit! Oh, and by the way, Steve, I know you've been stealing from the cash register, and that you're taking all our tips. I'll make sure to mention that to the owner during my exit interview. You're not getting one! I don't care. Catch me on Netflix, if you can afford a subscription. I walked out of the place a free man. Netflix went on production pretty quickly. They told me they were eager to ride the wave of Anna's stolen book, so they released the show just as her book reached the top 10 bestsellers list. In one night, my entire life changed. Everyone recognized me on the street. My story was the talk of the town. Everyone was talking about the character in it that was so eerily familiar and similar to Anna. They hated all the betrayal that befell my character after years of working on his book. See, my story never mentioned her, but I made sure to put it in every detail that would make people think it was her. In that story, everything that happened to me in real life was mirrored on the screen. I asked Netflix to do something special for me. I requested that they only release the finale on a very specific day, Anna's birthday. When the final episode of the show dropped, the world went wild. The very last 10 seconds of the show featured an after-credits scene, and in it was a photo of Anna and me during happier days, before she betrayed me. Tweets rolled in. News articles began popping up. TikToks of people shook about the revelation. Facebook posts, Instagram stories, even YouTube videos. Everyone was talking about Anna, and how she brazenly stole my work and sold it as her own. I can only imagine she was hiding away somewhere, spending her birthday in shame. Finally, I had my vindication. But that was only the beginning. With Netflix money coming in, I was finally able to get myself an amazing lawyer. I went after her new boyfriend, and her publisher. It was intellectual theft of the highest order, and I planned on bankrupting them to their very last penny. Our trial was publicized as if it was some sort of Kardashian scandal. Every news outlet was there, and when the sentence was being read out, Anna, in a desperate move, tried to run. She weaved and dodged the officers in court like an eel. She managed to squeeze past them, and she ran for the doors. But she wasn't quick enough for me. I stuck my foot out just a little, and she tripped and rolled, splaying onto the floor in front of all of the cameras. I've got to say, even after millions of dollars being awarded to me by the court, the most satisfying outcome of that trial was seeing Anna's stupid face on every headline as she fell onto the courtroom floor. her hair wildly flailing behind her and her eyes wide and crazy. She's still a meme to this day, and I've never been prouder of anything.
Please don't forget to share this podcast on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and so on. Thanks for your support. Check out our YouTube channel by clicking the link in this episode description. And also, kindly please rate and review this podcast. Bye.